Hey, everybody, and welcome to We Watch TV. It's the podcast about the TV that we watch. I am Daniel. She is Hope. This is episode 94, and we had a really great time this past Sunday at the celebration of the Superb Owl.
The Superb Owl. We didn't get to see its little beak.
It was a shame, but it was a very good time.
We didn't have a Superb Owl party with others, but we partied ourselves.
We observed here quietly at the home. And if you don't know what we're talking about, of course, we're talking about the Super Bowl.
If you know, you know.
That was played between the Chiefs of Kansas City and the Eagles of Philadelphia.
And I believe we had made some predictions about it, and you did predict correctly. You predicted that the Eagles would win.
Yeah, I don't know that I predicted that they would win by the margin that they won by, although I said
something similar to that. Okay, now I don't know. I don't remember if I said the Chiefs would win or if I actually even made a prediction. Everybody fact check me, but I do know I said this. I said, at least maybe to you, unless you cut it out of the thing. I said if the Eagles win, it'll be by a lot. Like, because I said if we're getting that fourth quarter, they got to be up by more than 2 touchdowns on the Chiefs before that, Chiefs juju comes flying out of there. So I think, though, I was still surprised. I wasn't expecting, the Chiefs to play so poorly.
No. I thought it would be a closer game. I thought it'd be more competitive. It really was not at all. It wasn't a boring game to that extent, because I think, at least until the very end, it was almost so shocking of how bad the Chiefs were that it made the game not boring. Because you know the Chiefs, until 5 minutes left in the game, did you really think they were completely done?
No.
How they can come back, and how the refs can help them come back. And it just was one of those situations where I mean, looking back at it in years to come, people are going to be like, man, what a boring Super Bowl. But I didn't feel like in the moment watching the game, it was boring.
I'm not even a Chiefs hater, and it was oddly satisfying to see them lose by that much, honestly. It was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I said, at least to you at some point, and I think I said it on the podcast. I don't want to go back and listen to myself. I was like, the Eagles can win if they're up by this amount. Now, I saw a very interesting conversation on Facebook that unfolded, because you and I agree. I agree, watching the football that I have partaken in, that the Chiefs, like other teams before them, often do kind of have the refs in their favor. I do not buy into that it's fixed. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. But I do think more often than not the calls go their way. Well, some people are like, well, I guess the calls don't always go their way. And I'm like, no. That's why we said that they can't be close towards the end. Yeah. So you can only do so much. There's always going to be a little, and it just happens. It happens. I'm sure it's happened for my team years ago.
What happens is when games are close, and you get calls favorably made to you, that matters in close games. In this game, it didn't matter because they were getting blown out.
And if you're a good team and you take advantage of
the
favorable calls towards you, you're going to win. So it's never taking away that team being good for people for saying that. And I just think sometimes people get their wires crossed a little bit. I saw lots of discussion and debate on the whole thing. And I just love how worked up people get about stuff. We are on the other side of it. But we were like, woo! when the Eagles would score. And I got to say, booing Taylor Swift was stupid. But we all know Philly fans will boo Santa Claus, I guess. But that's really dumb, considering, and I have to get this off my chest, the fact that Travis Kelce, when he showed up at the Eras Tour, you know what people did? Gave him friendship bracelets and cheered him on. So do better than that. You never want to be that person. What do you think of, I just think it's ridiculous, the way everyone is so obsessed and worked up over Taylor Swift. It's just why?
I don't know. If they wanted to protest it, they could not watch the games, but they're not going to do that. So instead, they're just going to be grumpy about it. So I don't know.
It's giving the Regina from Mean Girls, why are you so obsessed with me vibes? And I'm talking everybody, leaders, everyone seemed to be obsessed with this woman. And the thing is, at the NFL, and they didn't really show her very much because the Chiefs weren't winning. If they
no,
didn't
they
want,
weren't. They didn't.
Wouldn't show her.
No.
So that's silly and ridiculous. So while I don't dislike the Chiefs, I was glad the Eagles won. Were you glad that the Eagles won?
Yeah, that was the team that I picked to win, and that was the team I was rooting to win, just because I like seeing. I know the Eagles won a couple years ago, but I feel like it's been a while. But I like to see new teams get in there, and certainly, the story for the season was always like the Chiefs are this unbeatable monolith of a team, and it was fun to see the Eagles go in there and be like, we are just not concerned with the hype around the Chiefs at all.
Now, I didn't fact check this. I'm not entirely sure it's true, but Jalen Hurts, I think I called him Jalen Daniels in the last podcast. My apologies. Supposedly his lock screen on his phone was, how the confetti falls at the end, was when they lost, and he's kept that on his phone since the last time. That
Losing like that can be an incredible motivator.
I feel like that's something I would do, just like the whole Roy Kent on Ted Lasso thing. Kept like the article where the reporter talked crap on him. So I was not excited for the Eagles to win in a way that, like, I hate Taylor Swift or anything like that. That's not true. But, I don't like the Chiefs kicker. I think he should go to the kitchen. If you know, you know. And I also learned more about Jalen Hurts as this game unfolded, that his home management team is women.
Yeah, I saw that on TikTok.
So that's the reason why I'm excited. Apparently, as a Steelers fan, I'm never going to, like, actively root for the Eagles. But I guess when you play, like, the Chiefs or the Patriots, you might get me. When you play a dynasty, I might be like, all right. But maybe they'll become a dynasty. I don't know.
Well, now, according to the Patriots fans, the Chiefs can't count as a dynasty now because they didn't win 3 in a row, even though the Patriots never won 3 in a row.
I didn't hear any Patriots fans say that.
I did.
I did see a lot of jokes, though, about because Brady commentated. They're like, oh, Mahomes can't win when Brady's in the room.
No, I like I like the real reason that Mahomes couldn't win. It's because they played Country Roads.
Yes.
Midway through like the first quarter or something.
I was going to bring that up. Good job. Yes. So that was like the Rocket commercial. Best commercial. I don't even care what it was for. Country Roads. And then the whole stadium singing. Because if you guys know, Patrick Mahomes could never beat WVU.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of good things to hold on to over the past, decade or whatever, but
apparently we can jinx Patrick Mahomes with just a song. So
I guess so.
That'll work for me.
So say Drake.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the halftime show. Kendrick Lamar. Now I prepped you on Kendrick prior to the halftime show so you could be familiar with his body of work. I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I make this statement, and I think a lot of people would do well to analyze their critique of Super Bowl halftime shows or music or art in general and maybe start adopting this. It was a good show. His music is not my particular cup of tea, but I'm able to look past that and see the production value, the messaging that went into it. I thought it was a really well done show, and it was really good. I only was familiar with his one song,
A Minor.
Yeah, from TikTok, which is a good song, but I'm not really familiar with the rest of his stuff, so I wasn't able to enjoy the excitement or with the other fans around like what was the one lady that showed up in at one point. I don't know her name.
Serena Williams?
No, the one that sang. Serena just danced.
Yeah, a lot of Gen Z were really excited for her. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I thought she did good. I knew she was going to be one of the guests. I thought it was a great show. Like, I think there is definitely there's a difference between that was awful or that wasn't my cup of tea.
Right,
that I think people get their wires crossed on. And every year it is so annoying to hear people complain and gripe. Like, I didn't like Maroon 5 when they performed, and I don't even hate them as a group. Coldplay would have been abysmal if they hadn't brought out Beyonce. Beyonce saved the Coldplay year, and I don't dislike Coldplay, but they're not very Super Bowl-y.
It did help with my Super Bowl bingo card to have somebody. I did get to see at least one person go, they should have just brought in a bunch of marching bands.
Every year. So it really shows your age when you complain, but like, just who cares, honestly. And then I also saw like people afterwards that were like, I don't need a bunch of essays or dissertations on the meaning behind a halftime show. And I'm like, really? Because I got the meaning as I was watching it. What I realized exactly what he was trying to do. So you said it. What did you say? Some people don't have,
they don't have media literacy. And I want to make this statement so everybody's aware of it. All art is political. All art is political. All art is political. Hey, boomers, we didn't start the fire. All art is political.
And Phoebe Buffay, what are you supporting? Christmas.
So, one more Super Bowl thing to discuss before we move on here is clearly, and I didn't know this until you looked it up and told me, the food. The Super Bowl is apparently like the second most like food consumption holiday of all holidays after, what was it, Thanksgiving?
In America, unless Google lied to me, I was looking this up. It said in the United States of America that the Super Bowl after Thanksgiving is the day where the most food is consumed, because it basically is like an unofficial holiday.
I am making my official political platform, and the number one rung on my platform is the day after the Super Bowl, the Monday after the Super Bowl, should be a federal holiday.
I mean, with everything else they're doing, you think they might as well throw that in there.
Right.
I think that could be very bipartisan and bring a lot of people together.
Yeah. The Monday after the Super Bowl, everybody's got the day off.
We like totally planned our menu. You had made the best queso you've ever made. It was excellent.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We had regular like wings, some cauliflower wings. Don't hate till you try them. Cucumbers, because you need to have a vegetable, and then some cookies. I called the cookie store and was like, do you guys have any like football type cookies? And the guy was like, where Ralphie can't like ask for a football by accident.
Football?
Like,
what's a football?
That's like, and I was like, for the Super Bowl, that's today, but you were able to go and they like decorated them for you. So that was fun. It was just really fun to eat. And I wasn't done talking about Kendrick yet.
Oh, okay.
Show.
Oh, sorry.
You wanted to get into the food. It wasn't my favorite ever, but I did think he did a great job. I like his music. I liked the art behind it. So while it wouldn't make my top 10 list, I thought he did a great job. And but again, back to Serena Williams, like dancing. Apparently she and Drake used to date, so that was pretty awesome. And he kept teasing that he was going to sing Not Like Us Too. Yeah. And then when he went into it, the whole crowd going A minor, like you could hear it. It was really good. And like you said, sometimes things aren't people's cup of tea. Sometimes you really like it, but don't be like, well, that was terrible. That's just really annoying. And I know I'm saying it like 3 times. Just don't be that person. But I liked it. I thought it was good, and I think we can all take a lesson away from Kendrick with his Grammy wins, which we can talk about, which were the previous Sunday and Super Bowl, that, sometimes you don't need to rise above it. Being petty works. Lean into your petty side. Just go for it. That's what we should all strive to be. So anything else you want to say about the Super Bowl? Any commercials? Seal the seal?
The commercials have sucked for a while. I'll be honest. For a long time, the commercials have just not been very good.
I think we peaked with the Budweiser frogs in the 90s.
Yeah, probably. That's been a long time. They were still decent into the 2000s, but after that, it's just gotten bad.
I liked the Tom Brady one about like the batteries when he's like, "Why does everyone keep asking me if I'm okay since the roast?"
Not to mention most of the commercials I've seen on YouTube.
Yeah,
like
that's
the week
another
before.
Thing. Like I had seen the Seal one.
Yeah.
I had seen the one with Jeremy Strong and the Dunkin' Donuts. I had seen that one. So the Country Roads one, I guess, would be winning for me. I'm with you. The commercials are just very mid. They're not like what they used to be.
We need to reject consumerism in all its ways anyways. So I think that the downfall of the commercials at the Super Bowl is just one more step towards the end of this consumerist market economy that we live in today.
All right. So I'm going to ask you another question about the Super Bowl. Going back to halftime shows, what is your dream halftime show? I think we share the same dream.
Oh, my dream halftime?
And it's not one we've had since lunch.
My dream halftime show, and I feel like we're running out of time, so we need to get on it, is Weird Al Yankovic.
Yes, exactly. I knew we shared this dream for years. Think of all the guests.
Just bring on everybody that he's parodied over the years to help him sing his parody. It would be iconic.
Good. Legendary. The stuff of legends. If you did now, not Weird Al, since that's one we share, I'm going to just put you on the spot. Second, who would you want to go for? Like, if you could pick anybody, like, alive. Don't pick, like, Elvis.
Elvis would have put on a damn fine Super Bowl show. Would he not?
Could have been
back in the day. He would have. Okay. Anyways, I don't know. I have trouble with this. I think you could like really give the Muppets. The Muppets could just really like rock it. The Muppets could really rock a halftime show.
That would be really
It would be different. It wouldn't be like the traditional halftime show you think of, because you would probably need to have a lot of screen stuff too and have them all over the stadium. But still, you could have them down on the field, because they're they bring in those places for them to do the performance on, so the puppeteers would just be underneath there.
Well, we might need to get on that soon because I want Michael Caine to make a cameo then. It feels like Christmas. It feels like the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And then you have Sam Eagle come in at the end to do the patriotic part, and it's
salute
perfect.
To all nations.
But mostly America.
Mostly America. Okay, so you just completely upstaged my idea. I'm still clinging to the hope, but now as I move further from that target audience, it seems not achievable. I still want the all boy band halftime show. Like, I want like NSYNC out there, Backstreet Boys. I mean, shoot, even throw in One Direction, even though they're a little younger. We can put that for, other people. Let's just, I want it. That's what I want. Like all
I don't
the
know
boy
if
bands.
it's
O-Town.
I don't know if you're losing time for that one, because it's like that Paul McCartney and like
they did that.
The Rolling Stones came out, and they were like 50 years removed from their most popular
I feel like
times.
that happened after the Janet Justin incident, and MTV stopped doing the show, so they tried to like tone it down.
And before you yell at me, people, I'm not saying that the boy bands that she's referencing are of the caliber of Paul McCartney or
I am. What is one thing? Oh, here's the thing about like not my cup of tea that I would reference, and I think I'm going to make everybody mad, so I'm just going to say it. Every time I talk to Xers in particular, and I always think of, when I think about this man, I think of the episode of New Girl and how Nick Miller loved him so much. I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't my cup of tea. But I always hear about how Prince was the best Super Bowl halftime show, and I respectfully disagree. Not my cup of tea. Was it awful? No, not my cup of tea. There's a difference. But like, people are obsessed with that one. For me, the best one was honestly a couple years ago with like Dr. Dre, Snoop, like the rappers, and
that was
then
a good one.
The NSYNC, Aerosmith, Britney. That would be like my second favorite one.
I mean, I listen to sad boy alternate rock, so none of those bands ever have a shot in a million years of making the Super Bowl. Maybe an outside chance the Foo Fighters were to get in there, but I think after the last couple years, that's probably out of the realm of possibility as well. So none of the bands that I like really listen to all the time are probably ever going to get out to the Super Bowl.
All right, well, enough of the Superb Al, unless you want to say something else.
No, I'm good.
What about, speaking of music, we did watch the Grammys. We saw Kendrick win for that, and we also saw Chapel won, put on a great performance. Sabrina won. What did you think of the wins that you watched? You haven't really ever watched the Grammys before, so what did you think?
Now I know why I haven't watched the Grammys before.
You
listen,
did like the performances.
I love the performances. It was really good, but they could have kept their performances, given out the awards, and still cut like an hour off that show.
Yeah,
with
it
all
was really
the just
long.
like wandering
it felt
about,
longer than the Oscars,
not doing anything the whole time. Again, we had great musical acts, and they didn't even give out all the awards on stage. They did some of those like, and these people won, blah 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 blah. But it just went on forever.
Did it seem like it lasted longer than the Oscars?
It did, yes.
Possibly.
It seemed like it.
I think that a lot of people have only started recently tuning into the Grammys. I remember the first time I ever watched the Grammys, going to show my age, it was when Britney and Christina were up against each other for Best New Artist, and Christina Aguilera won. Even though you could probably argue that Britney maybe sold more albums, I'm not really sure. Both awesome. But like, people don't realize that sometimes like album of the year winner is not, it's like a win. It's not so much for the album of the year. Sometimes they do give it to a body of work, or it can be like a very calculated decision, and people were so mad about that. And I feel like, so Beyonce won for her most recent album, I think Cowboy Carter. I'm like losing my brain right now. And I thought that it, like, of Beyonce's work, I don't think that's a bad album, but I think she was robbed. She should have won for Lemonade years ago. So I totally think it makes sense that she won that. But I don't think that she was the best in that category. But I've seen a lot of people like freaking out about it, and I'm like, y'all need to calm down. And as for Taylor Swift, she actually didn't win any Grammys, I think that the Tortured Poets Department, and a lot of people agree with me, that is her best album, and it's actually better than Midnight's what she won for. But I knew she wasn't going to win, because right now we're at Taylor Swift oversaturation, and I knew they weren't going to give it to her because a lot of that. And I think it would have made people like more kind of angry towards her. So I thought Billie Eilish was going to win it, but when Beyonce won, I thought that, like, I was surprised, but not surprised, if that makes sense. And I love Beyonce, and I'm still happy she finally won that. I just think Lemonade was way better. Now you're like chomping at the bit. What are you shaking? I didn't realize you felt so strongly about Beyonce. Do you have something to say about album of the year?
No, I just was wanting to remind you how you had to stop in the middle of this thing to explain to me the difference between album of the year, record of the year, song of the year. And was there one more of the year that to me all seemed like the same thing? But
it's not.
You explained it to me, and it makes sense why. But it just, the naming conventions just threw me way off.
Who would you have picked for album of the year?
Probably Chapel.
Okay,
I have heard most of Tortured Poets Department. I've heard most of
Short and Sweet,
and I've heard most of Chapel's record, and that's the one I like the best.
Okay.
But I mean, again, music is such a subjective, personal thing.
Like a cup of tea.
Yeah.
I don't even like tea. I'll call it a cup of iced coffee. I think for me, even though I love Taylor Swift and I think that's her best album of that category, I would have personally gone with Sabrina. Just because I do love it. But I thought the Grammys were fun. I liked the performances, but I agree with you. They were a little long. I hope the Oscars are not as long and boring, but Conan's hosting them, so.
I mean, Conan will be funny, but again, it's just like, let's give out the award, do the musical thing, do a little banter, give out an award. Like all the stuff they do, just horsing around on the side with stuff, was bad.
Horsing around. Speaking of Pink Pony Club, Chapel really
she killed
brought
it.
down the house. Like she and Sabrina both did really good performances, just totally different. Like Sabrina's more that physical comedy, like. I heard like very like stage presence, but I feel like a lot of people, like even more people, are like into Chapel now after that specific performance. So that was really cool. Anything else you want to say about the Grammys? So it's cold outside again.
Of course.
It's snowing again.
It's raining.
We're also getting ready for another unofficial holiday. I feel like I get more into the Super Bowl than this one, but Valentine's Day is coming up this week. It's on Friday. That's nice that it's on a Friday.
Yeah, it's nice that it's on a Friday. I mean, not like we're going to go anywhere, but.
Well, you're going to go.
I'm going somewhere to pick up dinner and bring it home, but we're not going anywhere.
And then we'll sit and we'll watch some TV. But speaking of Valentine's Day, pull up my little list here. We are a TV podcast, even though we haven't talked about actual TV shows since we've started this episode. But one of the things that I like about TV shows and movies, of course, is couples shipping. I have some favorite couples over the years. I have some couples that I don't like over the years. But, you know, that's one of the reasons why I like to watch TV. You might not be as into the shipping as much, but I feel like there are some ships you like. Like you like Daphne and Niles, correct? So that's not why you watch, but do you agree the journey, like, for example, of Daphne and Niles was awesome?
Yes.
On Frasier. So because of that, and with the Valentine's Day theme, and people have asked us, are we going to do any more rankings, like the blind rankings? We've each made a list of 5 couples for the other to blindly rank. Now, do you want to go over the rules that we put in place on how to do
we
this?
put some rules in place on how to pick, but we also, just for everybody who's not familiar, blind ranking just means that I have 5 items on my list. I'm going to read one off to Hope, and she has to pick them 1 through 5. And if she picks the first one at number 4 slot's gone. And so you got to be careful, because whatever that last thing is, if you don't put anything in number 1, ends up in your number 1 slot.
Texas is not my favorite football team, John Paul Fowl.
So for this list that we put together for each other here specifically, we had a couple rules that I'm blanking on completely. They had to be in-game couples. So it couldn't be a situation where they dated through the show and some people still hold a torch for it, even though it's dead and gone.
It couldn't be like Stefan and Elena from the Vampire Diaries, because they did not end up together.
It needed to be, the list that we made for each other needed to be a list that we could competently rank. So it had to be a show that we've actually seen.
They actually had to be romantic, and they had to have kissed.
We didn't say romantic. We said kissed.
Oh, but they're still in-game then.
Yeah.
You're starting to freak me out when
it's mind games. It's mind games.
Cheat on this.
It's mind
I just
games.
Know it.
It's mind games.
And then I also had some. You cannot include these on the list because I will get mad. So none of the How I Met Your Mother people, even though I'm okay with Marshall and Lily, I don't even want to bring that up. And Daniel's like, I could ask you stuff about 90210. No, you can't, because the right couples didn't end up together on 90210.
Unless you guys want to
and I
be
don't wanna
here
mad.
for a PhD dissertation, I'm not going to touch 90210.
All right, so I'm gonna I'll go first.
All right.
Well, I mean, like, I'll rank first. You hit me with your
All
list.
right, you ready? So number 1 on my list, Phoebe and Mike.
That's a good one. Phoebe and Mike. I'm going to put them in the 3 slot crap bag.
All right, so you're taking the 3 slot away immeditely.
Yeah, I
right,
like
all right.
banana hammock.
Phoebe and crap bag banana hammock. Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good one. They had the best wedding. I like their wedding better than Monica and Chandler's in the snow. Do you not agree that was what?
It was a good wedding.
It was
yes.
a good wedding. They're good. Good job, Daniel. Think outside the box. I love Phoebe and Mike.
Second on my list, Leslie Knope and Ben Wyatt.
Ooh, Leslie Knope and Ben Wyatt. Ooh, I really like them too. I'm gonna give them the. Ooh, this is tough. Let's give them the 2 slot.
Give them away the 2 slot.
Yeah, I
All
know.
right. Jim and Pam from The Office.
I'm gonna give them the 5 slot.
You're giving away the 5 slot. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That could be a. So you've
could
got
hurt me.
1 and 4 left.
I don't dislike Jim and Pam, but their journey annoyed me.
Okay.
But I'm glad they ended up together. So
right.
there
All
you
right.
go. So I have 4
Sheldon
and 1.
and Amy.
4.
4. Which leaves Schmidt and Cece.
That's for 1.
Yep. So you got.
That was I'm
okay.
cool with
So
this.
your ranking is Schmidt and Cece from New Girl
Yeah.
at number 1,
Exactly.
followed by Leslie Knope and Ben Wyatt
Yep.
at number 2, followed by Phoebe and Mike from Friends,
Mm-hmm.
Jim and Pam,
No.
or Sheldon and Amy, and then Jim and Pam.
Honestly, if you gave me that list, that's exactly probably how I do it.
All right.
Like if you put it in front of me.
Well done.
Sheldon and Amy don't bug me. I'm
Well
not
done.
one of like.
No, they don't bug me
I
necessarily.
can't
but
believe you hit us with a Big Bang. I almost gave you a Big Bang Theory couple, and I was like, Daniel would get mad if I did this because
Why?
I don't know. I guess we did watch.
It's
that
a
show
middle
a
of the road
lot.
show. Like
I
it's
was gonna
not.
give you.
It's
Leonard
not the
and
greatest.
Penny, though.
It's not like the greatest comedy of all time, and it certainly declined as the
Yeah.
years went on. But it's fine.
I like Howard
At least
and Bernadette.
at least at a minimum, they didn't soil their characters the way How I Met Your Mother did at the end.
Makes me so mad.
All right, hit me up.
Okay.
At some point, we got to talk about TV on
All
this
right.
TV podcast. So
Okay. Chandler and Monica. Chandler and Monica.
go 2.
2. Okay. Nick and Jess.
1.
Really?
Yep, it's over. I know.
All right. Peyton and Lucas.
3. It's the way it was supposed to be, even if I do or do not care for them together.
Okay, so you have Nick and Jess at number 1.
Yeah.
You have Chandler and Monica at number 2.
Yeah.
And Peyton and Lucas at number 3.
Yeah, I know. I could screw myself here.
Okay, Schmidt and Cece.
They have to get 4.
All right. Well, then you didn't screw yourself because my last one is a wild card. Ryan and Taylor from the OC.
Oh, number 5. Easy. No question. Not even a problem. I'm fine with
Because
the
they
only-
indicated that they did end up together, and the creator has since come out and said that, even though our preference would be if Marissa to have lived. But
he could just get into a coma
Okay.
and go see Marissa because it's just. Well, listen, I don't want to go back to the days.
So
of,
you would-
I don't want to go back to the days of season 4 of the OC. I really don't want to do
I
that.
feel like you, though, like if you had laid that list, your list in front of me, that's exactly how I'd have ranked it. I think you would make some changes, though. So you have Nick and Jess at 1, you have Chandler and Monica at 2, Peyton and Lucas at 3, Schmidt and Cece at 4, and Ryan and Taylor
Yeah,
at
so
5.
my main issue, I think, one, obviously, is Schmidt and Cece is too low, and also I tried to gamify and think, well, if she went Nick and Jess, she's not going to go 2 couples from the same show.
She did.
So I knew it. So it was likely they weren't going to be there.
Because you would flip Schmidt and Cece, but you like them better than Nick
Yeah,
and
but
Jess,
they
right?
both of those 2 couples would go over Monica and Chandler for me.
So how would you do it then? Would you do Schmidt and Cece 1,
Schmidt and Cece, Nick and Jess, Monica and Chandler,
Peyton and Lucas?
Peyton and Lucas,
Ryan
and then Ryan Taylor.
I almost hit you with Winston in the alley.
Well, that would have been my number 1. That would have been my actual number 1.
I thought about giving you all the New Girl couples, the 4.
Oh,
and then,
that would have thrown me so hard. You should have done that.
And then I had a backup for you if you weren't going to let me count Ryan and Taylor, because I thought you might complain about that, even though it's presumed they ended up together. My backup was Wyatt and Darlene from Ozark. The old lady. The teenage, even though they both died, they ended up together. That's my backup.
Wow, that's
I can't believe you didn't do like any. I guess you did do Parks and Rec. What are we missing?
there's a lot of TV shows out there. We should talk about them.
All right, let's do
For
it.
instance, Severance. We missed last week, so we've got 2 episodes of Severance to talk about tonight. Episodes 3 and episode 4. I feel like, for me, because we watched these at the same time, they really blended together.
They did.
And I'm having a lot of trouble recalling episode 3 because episode 4
Okay.
was a monumentally excellent episode of television.
Well, let's go through
But
the titles of it. Is episode 3 is Who is Alive? Mark, Helly, Irving, and Dylan search for answers. So they're all together again. I think that's where where they went. They would have been showed the video in the previous episode too, right? They are blending together. And then episode 4 is Woe's Hollow. The team participates in a group activity. I can't believe that we're only 4 episodes in, and some people could be like, oh, well, the pacing, yes, the timing is going slow, but the information reveals that we've had is a lot for episode 4.
It's a lot.
For only 4 episodes.
So before we get to episode 4, quickly, episode 3, Dylan got to meet his outie wife.
Who I heard the voice
Pet.
and immediately
Nailed it.
you're like, big guy. I'm like, what? That's Elizabeth from New Girl,
Yep.
who Schmidt 2-timed Cece with.
Yeah.
And we're really liking Schmidt and Cece still over Nick and Jess best. When you recall that storyline. They grew up a lot, both of them. It's okay.
It was a journey.
It was a journey.
Mark and Helly go looking for Mark's wife, and they meet the goat people.
Who want to see their belly buttons.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was weird. That whole scene was weird.
Game
It
of Thrones
was
lady
odd.
shows up as a goat person.
Oh, Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah.
I like her hair dark like that. It looked really pretty. Even though she was
And
weird.
Irving goes back to the art department to see what's going on there, even though Bert is no longer with
Get
the
some
company.
answers.
He gets some answers, and he has some conversations and talks about the paintings that he's been that his outie has been painting.
We also see Mark's outie talking to his sister.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do an act. He's trying to like burn stuff into his retina so his any Mark can remember stuff.
Yep.
And then he's met with that woman who we saw in season 1 that used to work for the severed people. And apparently she like confirmed that Gemma, the last time she saw Gemma was alive, whatever that means. And she's going to work on, she says she's perfected it. So she's going to work on doing to try to unsever him what she did with his one coworker that unfortunately it didn't take.
Yeah.
And that died in season 1.
Yeah. And so that's where that episode leaves off.
Do you trust that lady?
I don't know.
Well,
it's like,
I don't know who
okay.
I trust. I don't know if I trust Gemma, his old wife.
Before we get to episode 4, let me just say, and I've been saying this for a while, I don't entirely trust the outie world. Maybe it's just the vibe they're going for, but there's just something very strange and off about the outie world.
I could see it being an artistic choice to make it very clinical and robotic because we're all just corporate, people, whether we're any or outie. So I could see that being an artistic decision. But the more we look into it, the weirder it gets as well. It's weird.
So anyways, episode 3 ends with Mark kind of starting the journey of, I don't remember the term they used for it, but basically unsevering.
Yeah.
And then it's not addressed except for like a split second in the episode 4 where they all go on a nice little hiking camping trip.
Well, you forgot another important thing to season 3 before we get into their group retreat. Milchek talks to the board.
Oh, that's right.
And he gets some gifts from the board members. They have taken paintings of their past board members that were of Caucasian white race and turned them into a black person and gave it to him. And I think he was, even though you didn't, he's a very robotic person. I think he was just a little bit freaked out by it. What do you think?
When he put them
there
away,
was a weird vibe.
Yeah, instead of putting them up on the wall, which I assume is what they would have wanted, he put them up on a shelf, and so that to me that was a signal that like that was not exactly the validation he was looking for.
Always talking to
Natalie.
the board. What is her name?
Natalie.
she kind of had this like plastered on smile, like, I got the same thing.
Yeah.
And then she's talking also to Mark's brother-in-law who wrote that book that somehow got in.
Yeah.
And she wants him to write one, but to make it, not like just.
They want to change some of the language around just in that, so it's not upsetting. So it's not upsetting to the innies, right? But I wonder if that means they think that book could help a little bit more with some cult activities.
All right, so you're chomping at the bit here. Let's get right into it then. The crazy one, episode 4, the group retreat. They all just wake up in a snowy, mountainous place They're all wearing black like coats with hats, and Mr. Milchek has quite the set. He's got quite the look on, like a white coat and a white hat when he finds them. And there was really no explanation about how they got there. That's how the episode opened, and that's where we were the whole time.
Were they actually out? Were they actually gone from the severed floor?
I don't think so, but at the same time, it's weird for what happened at the end. Why would you blow your cover like that at the end, which we'll get to if we weren't? Can you still, even if they can simulate that and they're still in the building, because I don't think they were in a real park or actually outside, maybe you can still get hurt even in the simulation. Well,
you can still be drowned in water.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm not saying it was a holodeck situation. Like that, all that's like from. No, I'm not saying it was like a Star Trek holodeck where all that stuff is actually not there and just it's visualized but not real. I'm just saying something seemed off enough, and also they take such precautions to protect the innies from the outside world, and to take them to a place like that in the outside world where anything can happen. Like,
we've never seen the innies like fall asleep, and they had tents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they never slept before, which was a weird thing. So they march them through this place, and they're supposed to be like following a trail that one of the founders of the company did.
But then they see like themselves in the distance.
They see themselves in the distance.
Like holograms or something.
They're reading a book that they hadn't had a version of the book that they hadn't read before because it was not allowed for innies to have access to. And
then they got their marshmallows taken away from them.
They got their marshmallows taken away from them. And finally,
the creepy little girl supervisor still there. Still unexplained. But finally we get to the end of the episode, and Irving is suspecting something that Helly might not be Helly. You're missing a major plot point. So we have the tents. Helly and Mark hook up.
Oh, yeah.
So based upon our reveal, that's
that's
icky.
That's not great.
So as you said, Irving suspects Helly, who she's basically. So we have it confirmed now.
It's confirmed, yeah.
And we kind of figured this. I thought maybe there's a chance they could go the other way and actually have our Helly go back in, but we thought, and for the most part, we figured like that we're not going to see our version, any version of Helly R for a while, and that actress was doing a good job.
Oh, she's doing such a good job.
The eyebrows. You know what she reminds me of? And you are going to roll your eyes at this, but Nina Dobrev did such a great job on The Vampire Diaries when she would be Catherine and Elena. And there were some times where Catherine was impersonating Elena, and she would try to do Elena's mannerisms, but it was always a little off. And stuff like an eyebrow flip, a hair flip, just a tone of voice. And I feel like this actress has done, like, a very good job at like basically playing like two characters at once, like a character playing another character playing another character. And Irving, our dude Irving, like he had asked her in that first episode about like with Night Gardener, what do you mean? And he brought that up again, and then he's like, you guys are making goo eyes at each other, Mark, that's why you can't see it. So what Daniel and I were saying about the drowning, so they get their marshmallows taken away. Mark and Helly hook up. It's kind of creepy and weird, but we think that maybe the unsevering might be working because while they were hooking up, a flash of Gemma's face showed up.
Yeah.
So that
for
be
Mark,
taken.
yeah.
So then Irving just decides that he's gonna drown Helly.
He sleeps outside.
Yeah, he falls asleep outside, almost freezes to death.
And then when he wakes up and ends up finding Helly, who's also just wandered off from camp in the morning by that waterfall. She's looking at the waterfall. Now this is supposedly like a significant waterfall to the owners of the company.
Yeah, which we know are like related to her.
And they joke about it being like the tallest waterfall in the world to the Innies, which they wouldn't know, right? But it was kind of a funny thing. But she's there admiring it. I think that might go back to the fact that she's not actually Helly R. She is Helena. And he finds her there, and they have a discussion, and he says that line about Helly was never cruel. Yeah. And then he just grabs her and starts drowning her, and that mill chick shows up, and she finally is like, flip the switch.
Seth. She got him Seth.
She called him Seth. And then Irving says, yes, Seth, flip it. And then he flips her back to Helly R to get him to stop.
And that's the first time Helly R
has been in the season
since she realized that she wasn't Egan and was on stage being like, no, they treat us like crap. So that's the last thing she remembers, getting turned off, and suddenly she's
in
waking
ice cold
up
water,
being drowned. Yeah. So that's what gives the ick of, first off, with Helly, impersonating Helly R, that like goes a whole thing of like consent from that perspective, because that's not the Helly he knows. But then her own, that's where it comes in that like, is your Innie a person? That comes in like the whole, like, even though it's her, it's not her in a sense. So like a whole thing of like consent. And I do really feel like if it was flipped and it was like Mark, like a man and a woman, like I think there'd be way more outrage over it. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mark has something to say in this too, because he was not.
No, I mean if Helly was a man.
I see what you're saying there, but like
that,
Mark also,
more people would have made a big deal about
Mark
it.
also is going to have some trauma from this, because he thought he was doing it with one person, who is not the person he was doing it with.
But what I'm telling you, if like Mark had been the person knowing the whole time,
sure,
like Helly is, I think more people would be icked out by it. Unfortunately,
I think so,
even though it shouldn't matter what your sex is for that. So that's a whole weird thing. And now I don't, with that reveal, and I thought they were going to string us along for that a little bit. So now it's like we've got Irving, who they drug out of there. Who knows what's happening to
They
him.
terminated him according to what they've said. So as far as we're aware, we don't know he's coming back. Now I'm going to go out on a limb and say
the description said the team deals with a loss. Or they talking about Irving?
Like they have turned him off. Now I don't know if that means they turned it off and can just turn it back on whenever they want to, if there's something they can do to just actually kill the Innie. I don't know.
So what do you think about that being revealed so early? Like I think we said 10 episodes.
So we still got 6 episodes left.
The cover's blown for Helly. Mark knows now. It's just, where do we go from here?
I don't know. I think they've mentioned multiple times that Mark in particular is working towards something that they need to see finished. Well, I have that, like, if they've gone so far as to have Helena impersonate Helly and come into the floor, and now at this point what has happened. I feel like they're going to just bring Helly R back and let her go back in, because Mark will just refuse to
work with
the other one.
Like even Selvig, who we don't think she did take the offer, because she had a scene with Helly in episode 3. Yeah. Even she's like, we need to finish this project. So that brings me to my next. I have a couple different working bizarre theories. I don't know if any would be true. We know that Gemma, his wife, was a professor. I am almost wondering if she's in on the whole thing, and that it was intent. I have 2 different theories with Gemma. One, that she's not, that she's actually low-key evil, and she's a professor, and she's like, well, let's test my husband to see the grief process, why someone would want to get severed, and that she's actually one of the driving forces behind the project thing. And then my other explanation is maybe they knew that she was a professor and maybe she was against Severance, so they were involved. They were, like, she was in a car accident. They were involved in that car accident, took her body. Basically, she's basically brain dead, put a chip in her, and made her into Miss Casey. So I have those 2 running theories. And then my other theory that doesn't have anything to do with Gemma, where you talk about the outside world, we keep seeing the stuff like vegetation with the goats, is what if they are secretly pumping stuff in to make the outside world more controlled, and that's all part of the game. So there's my word vomit about some wild theories I've got going on. What do you think about my theories, and what are some of your theories?
I could see Gemma / Mrs. Casey being in on it. I'm not so sure about manipulation on the outside world. I'm more on the side of I don't know that we're seeing the outside world. But I will say I don't have theories, but I have things that I've noticed that are weird and I don't know how to put them together.
Yeah.
So, Dylan's wife
Yeah.
is a cop.
Yeah.
Why is that detail? What's the point of that detail?
I don't know.
Because Gemma was in a car accident and maybe the cop showed up. What's the new assistant?
They did prove that was his wife, though, because we were distrustful about that. We're like, what if it's another wife?
The new
little
girl? She said before she came to work in the severed floor, she was a crossing guard.
Yeah.
Again, related to traffic in cars.
Yeah. You're onto something.
There's something weird going on
something
here.
Fishy.
I don't know what it is, but it is very strange.
And I am excited to see where they go with it.
As am I. And unfortunately, folks, that is all the TV that we have for you this week. We did not get around to watching Special Forces. It's done. Like, the season is over. We've got 4 episodes left. We're going to make sure we get those for next week. And before we talk about the one show Hope has been watching real quick, we do also want to note we are very excited because next week's episode, we will be continuing our conversation about Severance, wrapping up Special Forces, and bringing you our reactions to Season 3, Episode 1 of The White Lotus.
And that premieres on Sunday, February 16th. Walter Goggins. I always want to say
Excellent.
Goggins.
I'm in already.
Goggins, right?
Yeah.
So sold me at that. You know, it's got that girl from Hey Driver, drive these from Talladega Nights. She's gonna be in it. We're getting the spa lady from season 1 back. I am so excited to hear that theme song.
Yeah, they're in Thailand, right?
Yes.
Okay. That could bring its own level of
Are
wild,
you
crazy.
dancing around the living room?
It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time. We got Severance on Friday night. We got The White Lotus on Sunday night. I'm a little irritated. It's HBO. They're always putting their stuff on Sunday. Whatever. I've dealt with it, but still excited.
It's not that we haven't been excited for Special Forces. We still love it. We've just had a lot going on. So now it's even more exciting that we know that we have several episodes to watch of Special Forces, and we don't have to worry about waiting for the next one. So we can binge that and get into it. And then once we finish Special Forces, when we talk to you guys next about Severance, White Lotus, we're going to reveal our dream cast for Special Forces.
Oh, yeah. So, with that said, you want to update everybody quickly on your Desperate Housewives
Obsessed.
Your march through Desperate Housewives?
I am so annoyed that I did not watch this show at first run because there's already spoilers that I know what's happened because I decided to watch it after I kept getting recommended clips on YouTube and I was like, well, this show's a lot funnier. I am almost done with season 3. It's like all I want to do is watch Desperate Housewives. This show has it all. It's got romance. It's got chaos. It's hilarious. It's dark humor. I mean, one of the episodes I just finished watching, Daniel's like, oh, what happened? I was like, oh, well, Mrs. McCluskey apparently has been storing her husband in her freezer because she needed his pension money when he passed away because he had forgotten to switch. He had still had it for his first wife. He was only married for 2 years and had never filled out the paperwork. And you're like, wait, there's a man in the freezer? And I was like, yeah, now he's melting because the power went out. And then another time Daniel walks in, he's like, well, what's going on now? And I was like, well, Mike has been in a coma. He doesn't remember anything. He has amnesia. And you're like, what? And I'm like, oh, well, Bree's remarried now to, I guess we do reference his How I Met Your Mother character, Kyle MacLachlan, the captain from How I Met Your Mother. I think he's mostly known for Twin Peaks. He's been in Fallout. He's been on Sex and the City. So he is a dentist. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, so it turns out that Orson, that's Kyle MacLachlan's character's name, Bree's new husband, I was like, it turns out his mom killed what's-her-face and the one that took all her teeth because he's a dentist. So, but he still hit Mike. And every time you walk in, you're like, wait, you're like, but I'm only
as somebody
watching, like, 2 episodes ago,
as somebody
like,
who only just kind of floats in and out on this show. It's just so bizarre because, like, I remember, and this is all in season 3. I walk in and Mike is on the couch with Carlos and the other husband, and he has amnesia, and Carlos has convinced him that he is his best friend in order to just
and then Tom comes over
in order to just like use his house to get away.
A place to live, because he and Gabby are
and
split.
then like in hours go by, and I come back in and Mike's in prison.
Yeah, because they thought that Mike killed the one that Orson's mother killed, but we all thought that Orson's mom did it. The show is so fun. It is funny. Do you not think it is funny?
Oh, it's funny for sure. Yeah.
Dark humor, but it's funny. and it's crazy. It's just got all the elements. It's got those beautiful, what we're missing. I mean, it's sad that we are excited for Severance to be 10 episodes, like 20 plus episode seasons. Somehow I'm almost done with season 3. It's got so much content. It's like, I just have to applaud Desperate Housewives. I can see why it won all the awards. In fact, I cannot wait to finish recording this podcast and go watch more. Do you have a favorite wife? Do you like Susan, Lynette, Gabby, or Bree? Or Edie, I guess.
Not really.
Bree gets the most chaotic storylines. Like, I feel like
For
Susan,
sure. She gets some really wild stuff.
Susan's supposed to be the main character. That's Terry
She's just
Hatcher's
constantly
character.
getting in her own way.
But Bree is the one that's getting, and you know what? I'll say my interest is slightly declined a little bit because that's the actress went on maternity leave, so I haven't had Bree in the past handful of episodes, and I just need her OCD energy, the chaos that she brings. Like George, well, it turns out her pharmacist was poisoning her husband, and then it turns out that he's a psycho killer. Like
her kids are nuts.
Her kids are hellions. Like Andrew's actually being nice right now, but little like sociopaths. Julie, Susan's daughter, is nice. It's a lot. John Slattery just showed up from Mad Men. He's gonna marry Gabby. It's a lot.
It seems like a wild time. I think I'm enjoying it more because I only pop in for like 15-minute stretches every couple of episodes.
You up and
then you catch me up. I'm enjoying it more than I think if I would be if I was just sitting there watching the whole time.
I'm like, well, the Applewhites have their son locked in the basement. And then the so-and-so, they just found Mrs. McCluskey's husband in the freezer. And you're like, what?
All right, folks. Well, that's all we've got for you this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week.
And send us in more things to blind rank. We like
more blind rankings. Send them in.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at TheRealHoboDan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.